since we weren't there at practice, any updates, any more bodies in COVID protocol since yesterday, or kind of where's the team at?
No new COVID protocol updates from yesterday. I would say Darren Helm is questionable for tomorrow.
Okay. And do you anticipate going 11-7 again, or kind of what, as far as making plans for tomorrow, what are your thoughts?
I'm going to wake up in the morning and based on who we have available, make that decision. So, we've got 12 available forwards to us. So we might go 12-6, we might go 11-7. I don't know that yet.
And just what are you seeing? Bobby was saying he thinks that the power play has been better than the numbers indicate. What are your thoughts on it?
Again, power play can be a source of frustration for coaches, for players, for fans, for media, because ultimately, I think the Oilers' power play last year was one of the best in like 30 years, and I think it was 25% or something like that. So that means 3 out of 4 times you're failing on a great power play, one of the historic best. So it can be easily frustrating, and I think you have to fight through frustration. My only message to our players today on the power play was just, I think we're hurting ourselves with unforced errors at times. Specifically on the entry, I thought we did an excellent job of being in position of great entries yesterday. As we did, I thought the game before against Columbus, and we hurt ourselves with unforced errors on those entries. And then I just still think we can get a better attack and downhill mentality on the power play. I think we haven't been necessarily 4 guys at the cage trying to win those chaos puck battles. So I think we can do a better job in that area.
And just on the topic of frustration, I mean, is it frustrating to have 5 guys in protocol when I think you guys have been doing everything possible precautionary wise?
We knew these are the risks kind of going into plan, and we want to play. I'm happy for the fact that we don't have anybody on contact tracing protocol. That means that we certainly took care of the things that we could take care of from that aspect. That was my goal with our guys, is 0 contact tracing missed games. In terms of getting the virus, it's really, really hard to ultimately, is you take the best precautions you can, but it's really hard to prevent it from happening in totality. I think there's lots of people who have got it, taking great precautions, and ultimately we're playing a game and we're out there on the ice, and so guys have gotten it, I think as a result. So all I know is we can, control the areas in terms of taking the best precautions we can. I think we've done a good job of that. And
last one for me, it's also then, I mean, they're going to miss at least 10 days, 2 weeks worth of games, because they're going to, I think you've said they can't be at the arena, obviously. So now, let's go with Fabry and Ernie. I mean, they won't even probably be available for the Florida series because they won't have been a practice for them, right, or anything.
Yeah, and that's the difference between, this and a normal year where guys are out with illness, is you never miss guys for this long. It's more similar to fairly significant injuries. We estimate approximately 18 to 20 days, up to 21 days when you're out. I think it's 10 days, and then you get another 4 where you can't exert yourself. So now you're talking 14 days at a bare minimum. That's assuming that you're that your symptoms are gone. And then, after those 14 days, now you got to get yourself back into shape. So that's probably another 7 days, at the somewhere in that range. So you're talking around 3 weeks. So you're losing, when you lose guys, you're losing for a while. And again, though, that there's nothing we can do about that. But, I know tomorrow afternoon, I should say, we'll have 20 guys dressed easily good enough to win the hockey game. We got to go win the hockey game. And, I thought last night we had plenty of opportunities to score, in which we didn't. And I thought we got away from our game as the game went along. So we got to make sure we stay with our game.
Thank you, Jeff.
Yep. Thank you.
Next up, Max Goldman with The Athletic.
Hey, Jeff. Just curious, even when guys are healthy and available, what are the challenges of not being able to practice quite as frequently this year as in most seasons? Like what does that create challenge-wise for you?
Well, I think it's one of the greatest challenges in the NHL in terms of coaching in the NHL is you can't build some of the habits and kind of systematic work that you'd like to in practice, mainly the good habits, and you just don't get a chance to do it in a normal NHL season. And this one's probably a little bit more condensed, so it's even less. And then, then you have days like 2 days ago where we weren't really able to practice. We got the guys on the ice in small groups so they could skate, but we weren't really able to practice. And so you start to lose some of your habits, your structure. Ultimately, you want 5 guys on the ice playing without thinking on the same page. And that's done through repetitions, and you're losing some of those reps. But that's a normal challenge in the NHL. I think it's probably maybe exacerbated a little bit with the condensed schedule, but that means we got to do a better job as coaches of coaching on video, making sure we're crystal clear to people on our messaging. And, we've worked hard to try to continue to do that, and we will continue that.
And then I know it's only been 5 games, but as the season's gotten in here, is there anything that you're particularly happy with how it's come along? Not necessarily surprised, but just pleased with where it's at.
Oh, I would say, I'd be fairly happy with our work and our compete. I think that's something that's got to be a staple for us. And I think through those 5 games, I think we spent lots of times where our work and our compete was really good. I think, can it continue to get better? Yes, it can. Can it get a little bit more consistent? I think there's been a couple games where it hasn't necessarily been great. It's been fine, and we need it to be great every night. But overall, I think it's been pretty darn good. It's something we want to be known for, and we got to continue to make sure that that's at the forefront for us. I
think the other night you made a comment about, needing to be efficient with your chances and then not give many up the other way. Is there how do you foster that, I guess? Is there any sacrifice that you make on whether it's the counterattack or anything else that creates that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and I would say it's just efficiency in general. So I think efficiency is creating chances without giving much up, and that's what that's what the best teams ultimately do. You look at even a team like the Tampa Bay Lightning that won the Cup last year. The difference from them last year and maybe previous seasons, if you look at them statistically, is that they have continued to produce offense at a pretty good level, but they last year really eliminated other teams' offenses. Their defense was much, much better. And so, we're trying to be as efficient as we can, creating chances without giving them up. And I think some of it's just a learned process of taking what's given. And there's opportunities to attack, and there's opportunities to live another day. And understanding the difference in those opportunities is important. I think it's a learned thing, especially for young players. And, we've had some, the ball has been in the hands of our young, skilled players here over the last year plus. And I think when you're young, you try to force stuff a lot. And I think those guys are in the process of learning when to attack and when to take what's given. And sometimes you just got to live another day. So it's a learned process that we'll continue to work on. I thought as the game went along last night, I thought we got away from that. I thought we tried to force plays that weren't there. I want our guys to make tons of plays. I'd love to walk off the bench with our guys having made a ton of little plays to each other all night long. But you got to see the play and make it. You can't make hope plays, and you can't force something that's not there. Once it closes off, now you just got to live another day.
Thank you.
Next up, Ted Colfin, the Trade News.
Hey, Jeff, in terms of the 11 and 7, I remember in the past you've gone with it. You said, I think I remember saying you kind of like it in certain situations, don't you? Or matchup wise and whatnot? Yeah,
I like it depending on the lineup. I think there's times where the lineup lends itself where it can really work well, especially up front. I think on D, rarely the defensemen like it and rarely does the D coach like it. But I still think it can be really effective. It's a way to get, depending on your situation, for example, in the D corps, by going 7 last night, we got a guy in there in Christian Juice who we wanted to see on the power play, and we got a guy in Biega who we wanted to see on the penalty kill. So it allowed us to kind of, we lost a guy in Johnny Merrill who was doing both, and so it allowed us to plug some pieces in that way. Sometimes it hurts your flow, both offensively and defensively, and that probably has as much to do with, the makeup of the group. So we'll look at the makeup tomorrow when we wake up, see who's available to us, and make that decision.
I think Art asked you last night about a potential, what goes into postponement and stuff like that. It didn't sound like you really wanted any part of that. I mean, is that in your eyes, an absolute last resort to something like that?
I don't get to make that decision.
Right.
And the decision is made. There's not a black and white process. And I'm not suggesting there should be. These are really difficult decisions. And But there is a lot of gray to it. It's a judgment. I think ultimately the people who make it are the health officials, the medical doctors that both the league has hired, the PA has hired, our own doctors internally have to be a big factor in those decisions. And so, we're at the mercy of that. And ultimately, games, my understanding, are postponed based on the worry of the spread of the virus. And so, people make judgments based on that. I prefer that we, I want to play. And we've sat a long time here without playing, and I want to play. And I know the design of the taxi squad is for us to be able to keep playing. And I don't think the decision should be made on who's available to you per se, because then I think you get a lot of inequities in that. And so I think, as long as the decisions are made on the safety of everybody involved, I can understand that. So the more all of us can keep playing, I think the better it is for the league to keep kind of trucking along. And if you're missing some players, so be it, like we are, and you got to find ways to win.
The last one, you've been able to coach him now a couple of times, and he looked like he was probably one of the best players on the ice last night. But just Patrick Kane, does he kind of continue to amaze you right now at his age and whatnot?
He's a special player, and he's a special competitor, highly, highly competitive. That's what I don't understand. I don't know that everybody knows, because he's got a quiet demeanor about him. He's not an outwardly, doesn't necessarily just run around, and he's very, very smart and efficient in his own play. But he's a special competitor. Like, he's highly competitive, and he wants to win at an elite level. And he's got the skill set that, he's just got the ability as a smaller player. He's faster than he looks. He's stronger than he looks. He's got a harder shot than you might understand. He's got great puck poise, great puck poise, and great deception. He's an elite player. He's still an elite player. And part of that is because he's got that burning desire in him to win. And so, I feel real fortunate to have coached him a couple times. I don't always like coaching against him. I like when he's on my team, but that's, hopefully we can do a better job of keeping him under control tomorrow.
How weird was United Center without fans last night?
Different, the
best ranks in the league.
Yeah, and one of the pretty neat things in the NHL is to be in the United Center for the anthem. And, the energy in the building from the fans is always awesome. They do a great job with it. And it was different, it just is. Listen, we're all, like I said 100 times now, we want to play and we're pumped to be back, but it isn't the same. And I don't want to pretend like it is. Like, fans make this special, and the energy that you have when the buildings are full is what makes pro sports so very special. So we certainly can't wait for that day. I'd love coming back to United Center and seeing it full again here, and hopefully that'll be sooner than later.
Hey, thanks for this, Jeff.
Thank you.
And last question today for Art Regner, DetroitRedWings.com.
Hi, Jeff. Matthias Brome, pardon me, saw time on the power play. I know it's still a small sample, but he told us that he thought that his game would translate very well to the small ice surface in North America. You've coached, obviously, in North America and internationally on the large ice surface. Do you see his game more conducive to the North American style of play?
I don't know about more conducive. It would be hard for me to say because I think it was fairly conducive to the style over there. But I would say that, some guys come over and it doesn't translate as well, and some guys come over and it translates well. And I agree with him. His game so far has translated well, mainly because, he's been highly competitive and he can play in tight spaces. And, he doesn't need space in order to be good. And that's what you have on the bigger sheet, is that extra space. And so, I think he thinks it fast, which allows you to play in tight spaces. I think he's pretty strong on his skates for a smaller guy, which allows you to play in tight spaces, and he's highly competitive. So I would agree with him that his game is translated so far, done a really good job. He's a guy who cares. He does it right every shift, and because he does it right, I think he spends more time being able to attack on offense and playing defense. So I've been real pleased with how his game is translated, and real pleased with what he's brought to the table.
Has he been a bit of a pleasant surprise for you in the early season? Because you probably really didn't know what you had until you saw him on the ice for the first time.
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect, Art. I had watched him on tape, and it's when you never have seen a player live. Watching on tape, I think, is a real valuable thing if you've seen him live. But when you never seen him live, it makes it more difficult. And so, we really didn't know what to expect. And I would say, yes, he's been a real pleasant surprise for us. He's done a really good job. I think he's somebody who can add depth to our lineup. And right now with the guys that are out, I think it's real important that we have that depth.
Somebody like Giovanni, who was called up and then back on the taxi squad, isn't that more, if they're on the taxi squad and called up, isn't that more like a paper transaction? Nothing really changes for Giovanni except he can't play in games, which I know he wants to do, but I mean, he's still pretty much, his daily routine doesn't change whether he's on the taxi squad or part of the roster.
Not necessarily. The taxi squad guys have spent time practicing with us and time not practicing with us. So it just depends on the day and the numbers that we have. When they're in practice, if they're on the taxi squad, they might not do as much as the guys who are going to play. I mean, my number one priority is getting the guys ready to play the upcoming game. So, when he's in those situations on the taxi squad, it's different getting reps than when he's not on the taxi squad. So, what the purpose of the taxi squad is to have the players available to you. So when things like the last couple of weeks come up, week has come up, and you're missing players due to COVID protocol. You have other guys that can go in and step right in right away and don't have to go through a quarantine process. So, Giovanni's got to make sure he's ready when he gets the opportunity. He's got to make sure he's ready to jump through that window of opportunity.
And finally, Jeff, I know you're not there yet, but do you foresee eventually going with a number one goaltender, one goalie playing more than the other, or am I just speculating way too much?
Speculating way too much. I think we're going to need both goalies throughout the course of the season. I think the strength in the two goalies we have is that they're both really good goaltenders, and I think if you can divvy up the load, it allows both of them to not have to be perfect every night, and that they can be perfect on their own night. And I've had a lot of success divvying up the load in past in my coaching career, and if they both continue to play real good, then we'll continue to play both of them. If there's huge separation, then I'd be negligent not to go with the one who's playing way better. So we'll just continue to make those decisions as we move forward. But I'm not in any rush at all. I hope they both play great. I mean, I would love if both guys were 92 save percentage at the end of the year and they played exactly the same amount of games. That meant you got great goaltending all year.
All right. Thank you very much, Jeff. Appreciate it.
Thanks, guys.
That's for us today. Thanks, everyone.